So I'm a 6'3" male, concealed handgun licensed motorcyclist who was 22 at the time, which is definitely not the typical author of LNM posts. For a while I couldn't keep my bike at home, leading me to rent a storage unit for her, not too far from my place that had 24-hour access. First, there are a few things you need to know about the facility. 1. It had a gate that went around the entire perimeter and had a sliding electric gate that would pull back when you typed in your unit number and your personal PIN to get both in and out. The code you have will only let you in during business hours unless you get it set up ahead of time with the property manager to work 24/7, since she thinks it's more secure or something. 2. Since you had to have a code to get out as well as in, if you went in as someone left and the gate was still open but weren't a tenant, you couldn't get out unless you wait for someone with a code you can follow out, which is a really solid deterrent to potential thieves, hooligans, whoever. 3. There was a small parking lot out by the office, outside of the gate, that has space for maybe 5 cars, and is explicitly stated in the rental contract that you may not park your car inside the gate and leave, thereby blocking access to other tenants' units. Onto the actual story. It's the middle of summer and probably around 2 AM or so, and I'm dropping off my motorcycle. I'm walking back to the gate for my unit with my backpack on, when I notice a vehicle pull into the parking lot near the terminal, but not actually at it, or close enough that you could actually reach through your window and enter your code. So I'm walking up and watching it, and get about 40-ish feet from the gate when the guy gets out of his truck with it still running and walks right up to the gate and says, dialogue to the best of my recollection, him, "Hey, you have a unit here?" Me, "Yes, that's why I'm in here. Like, why else would I be here?" Him, "Yeah, my code isn't working." Me, "He didn't try a code, but maybe I'm mistaken." "Yeah, that only lets the codes be 24 hours if you request them. Otherwise they only work during the day." By now I've reached the inside keypad near the gate. I notice he's pretty fidgety and has his right hand tucked behind his back. Him, "Yeah, I did that already, but it's not working now." "Did before though." Me, "That's weird." Him, "I'll just go on in then." Me, "Well, you know, if you want to come in, you won't be able to get out, right? If your code isn't working?" Him, "What do you mean?" Me, "Well, you have to put the code in to get out, remember? You literally have no other option unless you're tailing someone out. There's no way he's unfamiliar with this process if he's really a tenant here." Him, "Oh, yeah, right." We sort of stare at each other for a few seconds without moving before I realize he's waiting on me to open the gate, and has no intention of getting back in his truck, and he's still got his right hand behind his back. It hits me that he could totally have a weapon and is being friendly so he can get up close and mug me or something. I realize I have to just get it over with, so I punch in my code. The gate starts rolling back from the other side, the side his truck is parked on, so I quickly walk across the access road so I can slip through it at its opening, versus wait for it to roll back all the way to me. I realize that he's keeping pace with me at this point, and is only 10-ish feet away from me. with only the gate between us that's quickly coming to an end as we're walking. At this point, I still can't see his right hand. I quickly take a few larger, faster steps to mess up his pacing, and jump up onto a sidewalk between his truck and the admin office, and walk around the back of his vehicle over towards mine. Just as I reached his back driver's side bumper, he abruptly turns and heads straight for my car in an intercept path. Him, so what's your name? I quickly speed up again and redirect myself to the passenger door so he won't get so close, and manage to hit the clicker on my car and unlock it. I know I'll be able to get the door open and my bag in the passenger seat, but he'd pretty much be right on me at that point. As I approach the door, I stop hard and turn and stare him down, which gives him pause right as he reaches my rear bumper, also on the passenger side. Me, not really looking to make friends here, man. As I say that, I open my door and chuck my backpack in the passenger seat, and slam the door hard, causing him to jump a little bit. I strafe around the front of my car while facing him, making sure he knows I'm looking at him intently. I reach the driver's door and am about to open it, when he very aggressively jumps to the driver's side of the car as well, still with his hand behind his back. I open the door so that I'm standing in front of it, and it between us, and very clearly lift up the back of my shirt and draw my pistol about halfway, but not clearing the holster. And he absolutely freezes. Me, we're going to have a good night, aren't we? Him, yes sir. Me, we're going to each get into our own vehicles and leave here now, aren't we? He nervously nods before awkwardly walking backwards to his vehicle. As he passes his front bumper, he quickly turns, and I unfortunately never saw what he had in his hand. He jumps in his truck and peels out of there in reverse into the street behind him. I honestly have no idea if he looked before pulling out, but luckily the road was deserted. Last I saw of him was the taillights disappearing towards the north. I left a report with Dana, after telling her about it the next day, and surprise surprise, the security cams at the unit were angled so that all you could see was me walking towards the gate and the guy pull into the lot and then peel out in reverse. 1 to 2 minutes later, resolution was too low to pull plates. I actually came fairly close to vomiting as he drove away, as the adrenaline started to wear off, and realizing how close I'd come to shooting someone. I'd mentally drawn a line on the ground, literally a foot in front of where he stopped, that if he crossed, I was drawing on him. If he kept coming, I was prepared to shoot him. That is the one time I've ever been worried I'd have to use my weapon. So guys, that's why I carry. And twitchy hand behind the back truck guy, let's not meet. 2. I was about 15 when my brother's girlfriend moved in with us. I was told that she was scared to be at home, so she moved in with us, though I never really knew what it was that she was afraid of. I didn't really care as a kid. I just got excited at the prospect of having a sister. I was thinking about all the things I would be able to do with her that I couldn't with my brother. Honestly, it started out really well. I felt pretty close to her. At one point, I asked her to give me some music recommendations because I'd gotten an iPod, and as an excited kid, wanted to use it as soon as possible. Things were normal at first. After a while, I did start to notice things. Some of my things would go missing. Nothing major. Hair clips, stuff like that. I would let my parents know that these things were going missing. But I was a kid, and kids lose things all the time. I didn't really think it was a big deal because the things that were going missing weren't major. But then the accusations started. Apparently, she started telling my parents that I was stealing from her, that she'd caught me red-handed. I had no idea what she was talking about, and on many occasions pointed out to her that I had no need to take any of the things that she was talking about. My parents told me not to take anything that was hers, though I think they only said that to keep the peace. This happened for a long time. At one stage, I had friends over, and we were making pancakes. She stormed off angrily when she saw us because I was using her frying pan. I had no idea, and honestly, it was a frying pan. Who cares? Anyway, cut to about a year or so later. At this time, I was pretty into Tumblr. I had an account on there and would blog pretty much daily. I remember being really excited because I had gotten a certain number of followers on there. And then the anonymous messages started. No, I wasn't that naive. I had received anonymous messages before and thought nothing of them. People like to bring others down. For the most part, I just laughed these messages off. I responded to them with little jokes, which was my way of letting them know that I wasn't going to let them get to me. A few days passed and these messages continued. I didn't care much until I finally received one that terrified me. I honestly can't remember the exact wording, but it was something along the lines of, "You think you're so good sitting on that couch upstairs? That's right. I see you." I felt myself freeze up when I read it. My heart started pounding, and I instinctively looked out our window. Not sure what I was expecting to see. There was no one out there. Not that I could see. But whoever was sending me those messages knew exactly where I was in the house. I had gone from laughing these messages off to absolutely terrified. There was a part of me that thought maybe she was behind this, but I had no proof. I didn't tell my parents right away because I didn't want them to tell me I wasn't allowed to go on that site anymore. Stupid, I know. I kept the messages from that point on. I didn't post them. I just kept them in my inbox, trying to figure out what I was supposed to do. I remember at one point my parents had to leave me at home alone with just my brother's girlfriend, and I told them I was scared of her and didn't want to stay with her alone. It took a lot of convincing, but they eventually let me stay at a friend's house instead. After a while of worrying, I told a friend about what had happened. They told me they knew a way to track the IP of the messages I was getting. I had no idea what that meant. I didn't know how that stuff worked, but I agreed to let my friend do it. I let them log into my account. They went through and they told me that from the IP, they could tell that the person who sent it was indeed in the same country as I was. But that didn't really narrow things down. So I asked my friend to check the IP of another message, one that I sent. The IP was identical to the one that had sent me those messages. So, they were someone in my house. My brother wasn't really big on social websites. There was no way in hell my parents would send me something like that. I felt this was all the proof I needed. Finally, I went to my parents about this. I told them about the messages I'd gotten. I told them about the IPs. My parents called my brother and his girlfriend upstairs to talk to them about it. She smiled, telling my parents she had no idea what I was talking about, until my parents told her about the IPs. Suddenly, she lost it. She was screaming about how I was the favorite, how much she hated me. I'd never been so scared before. Most of what I remember about that night was screaming. I ended up going outside with my phone and sitting on the front lawn, crying. I just needed to get away for a while. There's not much more to say. My dad told me that she had told him that she hated that I was the favorite daughter. I was his only daughter. After that day, I stayed as far away from her as possible. When she was around, I didn't speak. I didn't want to give her any fuel. My parents told me she wasn't taking her medication, and that probably had something to do with it. I don't know if she's on her medication now. She and my brother moved out a while ago, though. My parents tell me she's like a different person now. She seems much happier, but I don't visit them. Whenever I see her, I remember that fear. I'm sure she's a nice girl. I'm sure if she's on her medication, she'll be doing much better. But after all the crazy stuff she did, I just can't bring myself to face her. Edit. Thank you for all the kind messages. I just feel like I need to add this due to a few of them though. My parents are wonderful people. I don't fault them at all for the way things went down because they really didn't know what to do. They were in a tough spot. Sure, I'm their daughter, but my brother is their son. They were very scared of alienating him by kicking her out. Because my brother and his girlfriend were always together, it sort of divided us. Which meant my parents found it easier to talk to me. And so we're clear on this, telling me that they wanted her out of the house, but had to find the right time to do it. They didn't want to lose him just as much as they didn't want to lose me. My dad on many occasions told me that if she ever touched me, he'd make her wish she'd never met him. My parents were very protective of me through all this. I can't even begin to imagine someone being forced to choose between their kids. So my parents did what they could to not choose at all. I was never hurt, just incredibly spooked. 3. This particular event happened to me about 2 years ago. I went to an anime convention in Atlanta with 2 of my friends. For the most part, it was a fun experience, as we got to know several cosplayers, bought a lot of shit from the vendors, basic convention things. It was all going well until the last day of the convention. Throughout the entire day, I began to take notice of a small group of people while we were in the dealer room. Upon closer inspection, I realized each of them were wearing a specific type of mask. One guy was wearing a black leather jacket and one of those latex horse masks you see on the internet. The other one was wearing a pigeon mask and had a black hoodie. And the last was wearing a crying baby mask with a white t-shirt. They weren't really bothering anybody. They were just hanging out and having fun like the rest of the con-goers. So I pretty much dismissed it altogether and continued on with my day. Cut to about 11 at night. My friends and I had just been invited to a private farewell party by a few friends we met at con. Since the party was at a separate hotel in the opposite direction ours was, my friends called a taxi, while I decided to walk to our hotel and start packing up, seeing as we were leaving first thing tomorrow morning. Looking back, I probably should have gone with them. That way none of this would have happened. To put things into perspective, the hotel we were staying in was a good few blocks away from the convention center. And being a person who isn't a huge fan of large cities, the thought of walking alone at night in the hugely populated city of Atlanta, with the mentality that I could easily be mugged or shot, was pretty fucking scary. Despite all this, I pressed on and began my walk to the hotel. About halfway through my walk, I began to hear footsteps behind me. At first, I brushed it off as another pedestrian, until I realized that the footsteps are in exact unison with my own. When I stop walking, they stop as well. When I start, they do too. I'm starting to get paranoid at this point and begin to break into a light jog. Sure enough, guess who does too? Finally, I couldn't take it anymore and turned around, only to be greeted by the same masked group from before. They're pretty far away from me, but I could still make out the shapes of their masks. The second I noticed them, they began to start slowly walking toward me. I start getting pretty freaked out and begin to walk even faster and turn a corner. I then breathe a sigh of relief as I see my hotel in the distance, as indicated by its bright neon sign. Curiosity gets the better of me, and I peek the corner to see if they're still following me. Well, not only are they still following me, they're also not walking anymore, they're fucking running. That was enough. I sprinted it to the hotel, ran up the stairs to my floor, grabbed my card key, and noped into the room. But that's not where the story ends. Here I am in my hotel room, freaking the fuck out at what just happened, when I hear a sharp knock on the door. I know it's not my friends, as I was already on the phone with them when it happened. I just sat there on my bed, scared out of my fucking mind, when I hear the knock again. Only this time, it has a slight metallic sound with it, like if you tapped a wooden door with a nickel. I muster up the courage and walk over to the peephole on the door. It's the same fucking masked people from before. They realized I was at the door and just began staring into the peephole. As I stood there, blood frozen and unable to move, they lift up their arms and wave at me. It's at that point I notice that Pigeonhead is holding something in his waving hand. He was holding a fucking knife. At that moment, I noped away from my door and was just about to call the police, when I hear the sound of a loud bang against my door. They were trying to get in. I shouted to them that I was going to call the police, but they just kept on slamming against the door. I then hear a loud voice shout the word, "Hey!" and the banging noise stops. I hear a group of footsteps run away and recognize the voice as a police officer. It turns out that throughout the whole day, my friends noticed those 3 masked people follow us around everywhere we went. And once they saw them slowly track behind me as I walked home, they called the police. There's nothing really left to say. We packed up, went back home, and tried to forget this whole thing. I don't know what became of those freaks, but sometimes I do wonder what would have become of me if I wasn't fast enough to escape them. So creepy masked congoers, let's not meet again.